wouldn't do. I think what is going to really make people angry about today's budget is that essentially Labour will break all of those manifesto promises, and it will become painfully clear that Labour had lied to the British public in order to win that election a few months ago.
Starmer came to power with loud promises of change, but alas, all this turned out to be just blatant lies. He is devoid of any concept of morality and honour. During his reign, he has been mired in scandals that cause outrage, from receiving gifts to brutally depriving pensioners of benefits, from constant deceptions to budget and migration deceptions. But people will not forget his betrayal. We start watching the first scene.
Well, we certainly wouldn't be imposing massive tax rises on British businesses, and as a consequence of that, on British workers as well. We've seen those warnings from the CBI and the Institute of Directors this morning, and many other business groups saying that Labour's planned tax increases will hit workers in the pocket, they'll destroy jobs, and they will push some businesses overseas. Those are certainly things that a Conservative administration, had it been elected, wouldn't do. I think what is going to really make people angry about today's budget is that essentially Labour will break all of those manifesto promises, and it will become painfully clear that Labour had lied to the British public in order to win that election a few months ago, because they fought saying that none of their plans needed big tax increases, and it turns out that is completely untrue.
The new draft state budget threatens to deal a catastrophic blow to the country's economy. By restricting access to winter heating payments, the authorities are actually taking away pensioners' last livelihood money. These measures are not only economically insane, but also demonstrate the complete inhumanity of those who make such decisions. In August, Starmer announced a budget deficit, but his words, as always, turned out to be empty and meaningless. He clearly does not care about the people, but only creates his own distorted ideas about who working people are. No minister from the Labour Party could really explain what they mean by this term when asked about it. His speech before the budget announcement only once again confirmed the utter futility of the proposals that his government is going to put forward. For example, £500 million allocated for social housing will allow the construction of only 2,000 new houses. This is absolutely not enough to solve the housing problem. And allocating £1.4 billion to schools means that no more than £50,000 will be allocated to each of them. This meager amount will not change the situation in the country's educational system. Each of his speeches is just an attempt to attract attention to himself and not to clarify the nonsense that he continues to carry. People deserve better, and such soulless decisions are simply unacceptable.
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure if he regrets it or not. Clearly, the result in the election was pretty bad, with Labour winning so many seats. Something, we did warn about during the election campaign, that if people, for example, voted Reform, for instance, who might ordinarily vote Conservative, it would hand Labour a landslide, and that is sadly what happened. But look, there's no point in looking backwards or having regrets. We now need to take the fight to Labour and expose the fact they lied to the British public and hold them to account.
The Conservatives could not have imagined that they would fail badly. To demonstrate how close the party is to disaster, the number of Conservative MPs who announced their withdrawal from Parliament grew at an astonishing rate and reached 78 more than ever before, surpassing the previous record of 72 people who left before the 1997 general election. It seems that Sunak was so tired of everything that he just dreamed of escaping from this disaster. Perhaps he thought that if he just dragged his feet, the situation would not change, and therefore decided that it was better to leave now.
And his court case is yet to happen, so we have to be careful. But it is fair game to question whether or not the Prime Minister, the Home Secretary, and indeed the police knew that there was a terror-related aspect to Axel Rudakabana, that found in his house was a manual, an Al-Qaeda manual, a jihad manual, if you like, and also he had been producing the deadly poison ricin. Now, why do you think, Isabel, it took 3 months for these extra charges to be levelled, and the fact that they were revealed the night before a budget?
Starmer and other senior officials knew about possible terrorism charges against the Southport suspect a few weeks ago, but unfortunately decided to hide this information from the public. This happened against the background of mass protests and arrests, when Starmer assured those people of misinformation who initially assumed this crime as a terrorist attack. Prohibited materials and his involvement in radical Islam were found in the house of this criminal. Liz Truss noted indignantly that it would have been incredible if Starmer hadn't found out about it right away. Government agencies have no right to deceive their citizens. Why did it take the police so long to figure out the basic facts? This causes anger and confusion.
Well, actually, you introduced me as founder of Conservative Home, Mike. I wish you had introduced me as former Bank of England staffer, actually, because I was.
Oh, really?
But,
were you there at the same time as Rachel Reeves? Did she make tea for you?
I wasn't, but I have heard from people who are former colleagues at the Bank of England. They are very surprised at how she's sort of presented as this great economist.
Yes.
You know, she was seen as a competent, good, lovely person, I think. You know, people enjoyed working with her. But she was far from an influential person.
Right.
You know.
But why do these people big themselves up?
Well, she did this on I don't know whether you read the Guido Fawkes website, but she also made out that she was some kind of chess champion.
Yes.
And actually, she didn't even do as well as her sister in sort of chess tournaments. And I think this is, now, do you remember that plagiarism incident she was involved with, where she wrote a book about female economists? I'm beginning to wonder.
Rachel Reeves has specifically disgraced herself. She was forced to admit that her book contained passages that seemed to have been thoughtlessly copied from Wikipedia. The analysis conducted by the Financial Times was shocking. At least 20 cases of copying and pasting from Wikipedia and other sources were identified. In her book, she tries to highlight the lives of women in different historical eras and their impact on the economy. But now this work is overshadowed by a terrible scandal. Even more striking in Reeves's book, without the slightest changes, an excerpt from the preface to the report of the Tony Blair Institute is given. It's not just a misunderstanding, it's a real disaster for her reputation. However, she is still in power.
Well, if only we tried to put more money into the NHS before.
Yes.
Because that would have transformed it, wouldn't it?
Well, I mean, when you get to the point where Wes Streeting's admitting 2 days before the budget, we're going to put a load more money in, but it's not going to make any difference.
£7 billion, and it still won't be enough, mate.
But it won't make any difference. Well, then why do it? Why bother?
Yeah.
But I mean, what can we expect from this budget? Because I don't really think that, with the best will in the world, there's anything good in it, is there?
Well, actually, you introduced me as founder of Conservative Home, Mike. I wish you had introduced me as former Bank of England staffer, actually, because
Our government allocates about 20% less funds to healthcare annually than the EU countries, and this difference has tragic consequences. The NHS, faced with a lack of resources, is struggling to meet its objectives and is unable to provide proper treatment to a huge number of patients. Horrifying statistics: only 13% of lung cancer patients live up to 5 years after diagnosis. This is the lowest rate among the leading countries. This year, the government plans to allocate more than £8 billion to reduce waiting lists for routine treatment and £5.9 billion to increase the number of beds and equip hospitals with modern equipment and technology. But will these measures be able to change the situation and save lives? Time will show.
It was extraordinary at Prime Minister's questions today to see the Speaker, Lindsay Hoyle, effectively shutting MPs down from talking about it.
Well, let's remind ourselves of what went on in the House of Commons today. As you say, that was one of my other questions. In the House of Commons, you have legal privilege. Why did the Speaker of the House, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, Labour, why did he tell MPs that they mustn't discuss this? It's not within his remit to do it. They can discuss it if they want. They've got parliamentary privilege. But he told them, don't...
At the PMQ meeting, Lindsay Hoyle touched on the new charges against the criminal and urged MPs to refrain from discussing these sensitive issues. I understand that you all want justice to prevail in this case, but now, more than ever, it is important that there are no words in this room that could interfere with a proper trial or even lead to its termination. Ruda Kubana appeared before Westminster Magistrates Court via video link from prison, and the sight was truly disturbing. The hearing lasted only 10 minutes, and he was seen sitting with his sweater pulled over the lower half of his face. When asked to confirm his name, he didn't say a word. A security officer who was with him in prison told the court that he had decided to remain silent. What do you think about this video? Write your opinion in the comments. See you.